What's up, guys? I'm going to give you a demo of the Cloudaware FinOps MCP interface. This FinOps interface points to both Cloudaware CMDB, which has full inventory across AWS, Azure, GCP. When I say full inventory, I mean everything, not just EC2 instances as 3 buckets, but everything, your Kinesis streams, Lambda functions, every single resource type that exists in 5 different cloud providers. Here's how I went about creating this demo. I asked my AI assistants, I said, go to our FinOps and research what kind of things would be interested to this type of an audience. And I asked for 6 different prompts. And today I'm going to walk you through the 6 prompts. I already ran through them because I didn't want to sit there and wait for the responses. And I didn't want to spend a lot of time editing the video. This is just kind of a quick and dirty demo. So let's before we do go into the actual prompts, I wanted to show you, tell you a little bit about my environment. It's mostly AWS. I've got 497 AWS accounts, some Azure subscriptions, some GCP projects. This span is largely AWS driven, but one of the very things that I want you to see is Cloudaware is a multi-cloud solution. We also support Oracle and Alibaba clouds as well. You can, from a FinOps perspective, you can actually load your Datadog, New Relic, Snowflake, and Databricks FinOps billing data as well. Okay. So that's a little bit about my environment. Let's go through the prompts, and for each prompt, I actually recorded, or I asked it to record the amount of time it took. So here's our first prompt. Says, show me total monthly cost of all EC2 compute instances missing a corp cost center tag broken down by account, sorted by span, which 10 untagged instances are costing us the most. That's the prompt. It went out there, said you have about 638 instances that collectively cost about 31K per month. Here are my untagged instances. Some of them smart enough to figure out that some of these instances are stopped. So if I actually was genuinely interested in an answer, I would probably ask it to filter out stopped instances. But since this is a demo, so this type of a request, 40 seconds, very few tokens, and it made 2 SQL queries or 2 MCP calls to Cloudaware. I think that's pretty fast. Let's move on to the next request. Every unattached EBS volume plus every EBS snapshot with no attached volume across all accounts show size, age, 30-day cost, and total savings from deletion. Once again, these are not the types of requests I would be running, but this is what AI thinks Reddit is interested in. So here we are. First of all, it did count all of the unattached volumes from this session, and it's about 102 volumes, 38,000 gigabytes or 38 terabytes. Orphaned snapshots, significantly more, 4,100 combined, 6,500, about 80K per year. Now, I didn't modify this prompt, but what I could have done is, because the CMDB is stateful, it sees not just unattached EBS volumes, it actually knows how long they have been unattached. So there is a detached date because CMDB is stateful. And so I could have modified this query and said, modified at least, or detached for at least 30 days or something like that. So we would have known that. Okay, let's move on to our third one. Current SP and RI coverage utilization by instance, family, and region where on-demand commitment would cover. Where we have unused commitments we are paying for. And by the way, the previous request took a little over a minute and a half, and was needed to retrieve 2 discovery calls and 3 MCP calls. Okay, so there we are. here it says like, hey, your savings plans are working full-time, 100% utilization on savings plans, 99% utilization on reserved instances. And here it says, here's where I think you could optimize things. And here is the Amazon RDS, EC2, Fargate, OpenSearch. So about 318K worth of on-demand spending that could be covered by RI. Now, I've tested this before. Once again, because it relies both on curve files, DBR files, other cloud provider data billing files, and stateful CMDB data, what I like about this request is you could actually make it and saying, hey, focus on workloads. Don't just count on demand spending. I also want you to, focus on workloads that have been running for at least 30 days, so that you're not your analysis is not being skewed by recently launched infrastructure. You can also, what I have also done when it comes to RI planning, is to connect this agent to our Confluence and Jira tickets, where it can actually pull down information and see like, hey, this particular application this particular application is doing migrations, that this service is being decommissioned and when you say depreciated, but yeah, decommissioned, I guess is the word. And so then it will say, okay, I'm going to take this out of my RI planning. So using AI for RI planning is one of my favorite things, because it can only not do the math, it can query stateful data in CMDB, but it can also query what's going on in your Confluence, Jira, Notes, and what's not. Some people will even maintain like an Obsidian for their RI planning and like write down the notes. Okay, anyways, that was a pretty long query. This took 2 minutes, but surprisingly did not consume that many tokens. Okay, let's move on to the fifth query, which is biggest month over month cost jumps across top 10 accounts by spend. For the top spike, show what it's attached to, ignore marketplace. I think ignore marketplace, I've edited that myself. Just because I think yeah, why not? Okay, so here is what's going on here. Here it gives us the summary of May, June, and Delta. And here we can see we've got a spike in this particular account. And then if we drill down to this account, we see that the growth is largely driven by RDS and database migration service. And so here it correctly identified. It sees that you have a growth in RDS, you have a growth in DMS. So it is properly identifying this. Okay, this is a pretty kind of computationally difficult request, but I'm surprised. I thought that this is going to take longer. This took 57 seconds, and I'm surprised relatively to the amount of, with almost 500 AWS accounts, the amount of CUR data that's behind there is absolutely ginormous. But my data backend, not mine, Cloudaware's data backend is using BigQuery, so it is pretty fast. Let's keep going to the fourth use case. Net amortized cost by Corp Cost Center for last 30 days. Commitment discount spread to teams that use them. Flag spent with no owner. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so it split the query number 4 into sort of a couple of sections here. So first of all, here are my cost centers, here are the resources, and here is the amortized, and you can see there is a huge chunk here that is not allocated. That's just what it is. But here is what I like about it. It noticed that some of the cost centers are essentially duplicate, and it consolidated them for me. Like here's the 1717 in uppercase, lowercase. So it was able to consolidate this. Also pretty fast, 60 seconds. Okay. Uh, Last one, hope you're not bored. Last one was meant to sort of exemplify why Cloudaware is more powerful than just a straight up FinOps tool, is because it has full visibility to all of your resource types assets. Basically, our CMDB covers 99% of all the AWS, Azure, GCP, Oracle services. So like, um, so there is actual inventory, a graph of all your resources, and we can use that data to our advantage. So here the request is running EC2 instances effectively idle, not in an auto scaling group. So that particular fact, like if you just look at curve file, like typical billing FinOps tools do, they don't know if it's in auto scaling or not, but Cloudaware knows everything, knows the relationships, knows the service catalog data, everything. Anyways, not in auto scaling group, show 30 days cost, owner, environment, cost center, Cloudaware's recommended type, rank by cost and safe to kill, right size wins. So here is our here are idling EC2 instances, not in an auto scaling group, near zero network, less than gigabyte in and out over 30 days. And here it found 21 instances. Now, I don't know about you guys. I would not act upon these recommendations, and like I said, I'm not really selling, I'm not really demoing here the agent, which we're working on with its own skills files and things like that. This is just pure MCP interface. So all the intelligence here is driven by the Claude, Anthropic, OpenAI, whatever you use. In my case, this is Opus 4.8 in Claude Code, just basically going directly to Cloudaware MCP interface. So if you don't like the recommendations, that's basically, well, that's what the AI model generated. We're here essentially providing the data and the service catalog and all of the CMDB data to make more powerful. So you can now write more powerful and informed queries. Now, we are working on an agent for cloud savings automation that's actually going to generate scripts for you every day to convert arise, sell arise, and things like that, kind of an AI driven CSA. But, here the goal of my demo is just to show you the MCP interface and and so that's kind of, so here is that summary of all those requests. So that's it. That's the Cloudaware MCP interface. If this looks interesting or cool to you, all you need to do is go to cloudaware.com, start a trial, connect your infrastructure, and then you'll get instructions inside the product how to hook up your MCP. I hope this was useful.